Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over some severe storms which are currently moving throughout parts of the southern and central plains and are going to continue to move over the same exact areas over the next couple of days. We've already seen 1 or 2 days of storms, and again that is going to continue for at least another 3 days. We're going to be seeing very heavy rainfall totals, unfortunately, in some of these places. We're going to be giving you updates on this and just continuing to give you the information that you need to stay prepared of all these storms. We already have a moderate risk of severe weather in northwestern Texas for today, and we have an enhanced and slight risk which covers much of the rest of eastern and central Texas and also parts of Oklahoma. So we have a very wide area that's impacted by these storms for today, tomorrow, and also for Wednesday are going to be the 3 main days of concern with these storms, and they could even go on for a little bit longer. So here's what the current National Weather Service page looks like. As you can see, we have a couple of winter storm watches in northern Montana, as well as some red flag warnings in northern North Dakota and northern Montana. We have flood watches in parts of the southern plains as well, because we already have a few storms rolling throughout that region. And other than that, not many other watches or warnings currently in place. Yesterday we had a high temperature in Rio Grande Village, Texas, where they got up to 103 degrees Fahrenheit, with a low temperature tied between Copper Basin, Idaho, and Stanley, Idaho, both of them getting down just to 22 degrees Fahrenheit. The highest precipitation or rainfall report was in Callahan, Texas, where they got up to 5.4 inches of rainfall. That's in southeastern Texas there, where they had a few thunderstorms yesterday. Here's what the current radar looks like, and you can see it's quite action-packed, especially through eastern Texas. So you can see how we already have through parts of especially central and eastern Texas a few clusters of storms. We have one that's right in the middle of Texas. We have another one hugging the eastern part of Texas, and then one more that's in southern Louisiana that's kind of connected to that one in eastern Texas. So we have, especially in this eastern side of things, right in here, some rather convective storms. Mainly the main threat with this is going to be damaging winds and also some hail. Also with this one has a better chance of becoming more severe, although it is over a smaller area, so it'll have less impact in total. So this is just the start of things. We're not even close to what we're going to be seeing this afternoon, and in fact this is only the first round of storms that we're going to be seeing this evening. We're actually going to be seeing another round of storms originating probably around 6 to 7 o'clock Central Time in western Texas, and that's going to go back through much of the Texas and Oklahoma and continue to just head further to the east. So it's going to march through pretty much the entire state once again. So we're going to see a couple of these rounds of storms, not only tonight, but over the next couple nights as well. Here's what the current Storm Prediction Center page looks like, and you can see how we have a moderate risk of severe weather in northwestern Texas, with an enhanced risk in that orange shade for much of western Texas and southern Oklahoma, and then a slight risk which covers much of parts of central and western Texas, much of Oklahoma, and also into a little bit of Kansas, Colorado, and New Mexico. That's for today. Here's for tomorrow. You can see not as severe. We have a marginal risk which covers much of the southern plains, and then a small area of slight risk which is basically from Dallas, Fort Worth, south and eastward, all the way until about the Texas, Louisiana border. So that's generally the area that's under that slight risk for tomorrow. And then if we look at for Wednesday, it's currently just a marginal risk which covers the southern and central plains, but we will be seeing, especially over coastal and eastern Texas, a slight risk, which might go up, and you're going to see why that is, because on the NAM model especially, it's producing a rather robust line of storms, and if that were to pan out how the NAM is showing, that would even be maybe an enhanced or moderate risk type of event. The only reason that they probably don't have this up yet is because not all of the models are on board with that idea of how that storm will actually play out. So let's take a look at the NAM model. Today I actually put on the county lines because I know it'll be a little bit easier if you actually have the county lines to figure out exactly where your location is on this map, since Texas and Oklahoma, both of them are really big states, so it's hard to kind of pinpoint without the county border. So I put them on for today, so hopefully it's a little bit easier to see exactly which areas are getting impacted by the storms. You can see how that first initial line of storms by 12 p.m. Central Time today is moving through southeastern Texas, and it'll eventually just move out into the Gulf of Mexico, and it really won't be too big of an issue after that moves out. So You see, it strengthens a little bit, but still, it's moving out to sea, and this is not going to be the biggest storm or event of this evening. So you can see how this is by 3 p.m. Local time today, and you're seeing some of these storms rolling off into the Gulf of Mexico. As we continue this forward, what I really wanted to divert your attention to is what's happening into northwestern Texas, where we're already starting to see some of those storms firing up. It doesn't look too widespread or severe by this point, but it is still and only the early stages of development in terms of the storm system here. So we're only going to get stronger and stronger from here. So this is around, I would say around 9 p.m. or actually around 6 p.m. Tonight Central Time, and you can see that by 9 p.m. it is starting to ramp up a little bit. It's becoming a little bit more widespread. The Storm Prediction Center really doesn't have too high of a risk of tornadoes or wind damage with this, but what they're really concerned about, and what they have a really high percentage chance of, is hail. They think that hail is going to be the main risk with this. We could be seeing a few hailstones greater than an inch or an inch and a half diameter in some of these areas. So these are big hailstones that could be dropping over parts of western and central Texas, and that's going to be the main concern for today and also the next couple of days. So this would be by skipping forward a little bit, this would be around 3 a.m. Or 3 a.m. Central Time tomorrow morning, and so very, very early tomorrow morning, we're dealing with this line of storms rolling through northern Texas. So you can see one band back here. We have another one into western Texas, and then a couple more tiny clusters of storms that could develop on either side of that bigger line of storms. So we're just seeing a general cluster of storms into northern Texas, and eventually, again, they are going to continue to move further eastward. They are going to dissipate into the morning hours, so this is around 6 in the morning tomorrow morning, but they might re-strengthen again because the atmosphere in eastern Texas hasn't been tampered with in terms of any storminess for over 24 hours by this point. So eastern Texas, western Louisiana, they saw those storms by this point on this model run closer to 18 to 24 hours before. So the atmosphere had time to regenerate, refuel up, and now it's going in for a second chance with these storms. So you're going to see that these continue to move into eastern Texas. Over some of these areas, it is strengthening a little bit, but overall, again, it will dissipate by the evening hours, giving way for our next round of storms. So this is by tomorrow in the evening hours, around 6 o'clock, and we're dealing with more of these storms into northern Texas, but it's really not too severe by this point, or at least it doesn't look too severe. It will start to ramp up. By this point, again, it doesn't look too bad. This would be around 9 p.m. Central Time tonight or tomorrow night, and then by 12 a.m. Or early on Wednesday morning, we're dealing with some of these storms now starting to ramp up into north central Texas, into eastern Oklahoma as well. And if we play this out a little bit more, you see this rather robust line of storms develop into northeastern Texas. What is also going to happen is that we're going to see another line behind it start to form up back in here, and this is going to move further southeastward, and that's actually going to pose a rather large risk into coastal Texas. That's the event that I think could be either an enhanced or moderate risk event if it pans out how the NAM model is showing, although we don't know that for certain because many other models have their own different solutions, and we just have to kind of wait maybe another 24 to 48 hours, and then we'll eventually have pretty much a fairly good forecast on what may happen with this event. So here is by 9 a.m. on Wednesday morning. You're starting to see a little bit of rain pop up into southern Texas, and that's because of how much instability and energy is in the atmosphere. We have really high dew points, by the way. We have dew points near 76, 77, even 78 or higher in parts of coastal Texas by this point. We have CAPE values that are approaching 5,000, which is really, really high, and we have temperatures that are going to be well into the 80s. So all of these ingredients together is pretty much a perfect setup for some storminess. So that's what you're going to see start to develop. You can see that by around 3 p.m. On Wednesday afternoon Central Time, and you're dealing with some of these storms not too organized by this point, but it is fairly robust in many of these areas. So it's in parts, I would say it's about 25 to 50 miles inland of the coast where these storms are going to start to ramp up on Wednesday afternoon. Then as we get to Wednesday evening, so this is around 6 p.m., and we're dealing with this really, really strong line of storms all along coastal Texas. So you can see how it is very, very strong, heavy rainfall rates. The main risk would not be actually tornadoes with this. That would definitely not be the main risk. It would actually be more with hail and wind. We could be seeing winds, if this were to pan out, maybe gusting to 60 or 70 miles per hour within this cluster of storms. So really not a good situation here, and hopefully this does not pan out how it's being represented on this model right now. And that is definitely something that we have to figure out over the next couple of days as we get more model runs and as we get closer to the event. Of course, the accuracy will increase with these models. Here is the total rainfall, by the way, and these are going to be really high numbers. So anywhere that you're in the red, that's 2 to 3 inches. If you're in the brown, that's 3 to 4 inches. In the kind of bluish, actually the purplish color there, that's where you're 4 to 6 inches. And then if you're in that pink color, that's 6 or more inches, all the way up to closer to 15 inches in some of these localized spots. So you can see how the entire eastern part of Texas over the next only 3 days. So this is only going until Wednesday evening, and we're dealing with total rainfall amounts that are over 5 inches in some of these areas, especially into eastern Texas and southern Louisiana. So really, some flooding is possible with this. So make sure that you are, if you do get a flood warning, make sure you're trying to get to higher ground, or that at least you know that you have a way to get to higher ground. Also, if you're going to be driving around on the roads while this is happening, make sure that you aren't going through any flooded roadways. Only about, I believe, a foot of water is enough to carry a big truck. So really not worth it to drive a vehicle through. Try and find a different way, because it'll definitely be safer, and it's really not worth the risk of trying to go through a flooded roadway. Also, here are the Cape values, the amount of energy and instability in the atmosphere. So this is for later today, and you can see we have a lot of instability into southern Texas and also into central and western Texas. So really high amounts of Cape in these areas, 3 to 5,000, but that is not even going to be close in comparison to what we're dealing with, especially on Wednesday. But first, taking a look at our Cape values on Tuesday, these are also going to be rather high. We're dealing with Cape values between 3,000 and maybe even up to 5,000 or more in the southernmost part of Texas. So that would be for tomorrow. And then if we look at for Wednesday, you can see, actually it's really interesting to look at this map, because you can see that the line of storms is right here, and also you can also see that curve down here with that line of storms, and you can see how in front of that line of storms we have Cape values that are going to be up near 3,500 to 4,500, which is really high. You only need about 500 to 1,000 to generate a decent thunderstorm, and we have well above those amounts in parts of coastal Texas on Wednesday. If we look at the dew point temperatures, you can see how we also have dew points that are going to be for today up into the upper 60s, even some of the low and mid 70s, and a few spots here and there. If we look at the dew points for tomorrow, we have dew points, especially in eastern Texas, that are going to be into the 70s, especially in parts of southern and southeastern Texas, into the mid 70s in a few of those spots. And then if we look at Wednesday, ahead of that line of storms, we have dew points 77, 78 in a few of these areas. So really humid atmosphere out ahead of this. It's going to feel very tropical like ahead of these storms. And then once the storms go past, it'll really cool down in terms of the temperatures and also the dew points. So it'll be much drier and also much chillier after those storms roll on through. So that is going to wrap it up for today's video. If you have any questions or you want to forecast if you live in this area, leave a comment down below and I'll try and answer as quickly as possible. Other than that, please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.